My dad used to have this huge purple and chrome Harley Davidson Road King. I'd sit in the garage with him while he tinkered with it and beg him to teach me to ride. But he was worried that his bike was too much for me and that I'd drop it or whiskey throttle it to the moon. He was probably right, that thing was a beast. One of my favorite memories of him was when he rode it out to see me and my little brother's death metal band. He pulled up on the sidewalk in front of the venue, letting it idle as he was getting off, and I vividly remember that staccato Harley low. For a second, he seemed like a movie star instead of my goofy dad. He was a complete badass. My journey to actually riding took a few twists and turns. As a kid, BMX bikes were the cool thing. Then I got a Razor scooter because they were poppin' in the early 2000s. After Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 came out, I wanted to be a skater. That lasted until I was old enough to drive, and by then I spent all of my free time playing in bands. I was going through that cool kid phase where I was too cool for shit like school or hanging out with my dad. Things got kind of strained for a bit when my dad ended up working overseas and me and my brother went wild, running the streets and getting arrested and just generally being a menace to society. After 2 years, my dad came back, and honestly, he wasn't the type to let us get away with shit, so I straightened up. Eventually, we ended up becoming closer than ever before. At some point in my 20s, while I was in college, I got a thought stuck in my head that I should buy his old Road King. I was riding a bicycle to class and back, but the life of a pedal pusher in Austin, Texas isn't long because everything is basically uphill in that city. My dad talked me out of it though, since it had some serious mechanical issues, and I gave up the idea as quickly as it had appeared. A couple of years back now, my dad passed away unexpectedly. The world cracked in half, and all the things I never did with him and would never have the chance to do with him spiraled away. Like most people, I had just been living my life thinking that I would have decades to spend with him, drinking beer and shooting the shit out on the dearlies. Knowing that I'd never make new memories with him crushed me. As time passed, I learned to live with the open wound of his loss. I had to be there for my siblings and my mom, so I dealt with the grief by compressing it into a ball and ignoring it. I focused on helping my family heal, which helped distract me from dealing with my own pain. We were all broken in different ways, and as the oldest kid, I felt like it was my duty to be there for everyone. I ended up moving back home so I could take care of the house and my mom. That deep well of grief was still there though. All the distractions in the world can't cover the hole left in your life by the passing of a loved one. I was too proud to talk about what I was feeling to my family and too narrow-minded to seek therapy. I kept feeling like there was something missing, not just in my life, but in me, like in my head. Nothing was helping me deal with it, and frankly, I wasn't really trying to deal with it. Eventually, something had to change. That old idea of getting a bike came back to me. My dad had loved his various bikes so much over the years. We had shared a lot of things in common when he was still around, and I thought that if I also shared this with him, it maybe in some way help make me feel close to him again. So I bought a bike. This bike, actually. I'd never even ridden as much as a dirt bike before getting this, and I had no idea what I was doing. But even with all that, I wasn't gonna stop. My dad didn't raise a quitter after all. So I got online and binge watched all the motorcycle content I could. Stalled out a bunch, had some close calls. I got the hang of it eventually, and now I'm here, 6,000 miles later. I still miss my dad. I always will, that goes without saying. And even though I can't talk to him anymore, ask for his advice, or listen to his big, booming laugh, I can imagine that the joy I feel cruising the country roads here in Texas is the same joy that he felt. I can imagine that the thrill of pinning the throttle and feeling the torque pull you off the line is the same thrill that he felt. And And I can imagine that the connection you have to the road and the world around you is the same connection he felt. I should have gone to therapy years ago. I should have let my family in when they asked how I was holding up. I should have picked up the phone more when my dad called. But even with all those regrets, riding a motorcycle has freed me of continuing to live with more. It's dangerous on two wheels, but it's actually living. I'm no longer just existing, but actually enjoying life. When you come around a corner and you see how beautiful the world is, you can't help but feel grateful for everything you've been given. When you feel the engine rumbling below you, when you realize how unprotected and vulnerable you really are on a bike, you're forced to face your mortality. You're forced to accept that this could be the last ride. And every time you roll on the throttle, you're telling all your fears and regrets to fuck off. That's what real strength is. And I'm glad my dad was able to teach me one last lesson.